Welcome back, everybody. I'm happy you're joining us for another Ask the Expert live Q&A. Today, I've got Caleb with us. Let's bring Caleb on. Caleb, how are you, sir? Uh-oh. Caleb, I don't think we've got your audio, bud.
There we go. Hit the mute button. Works every time. Good morning, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing super well. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm doing great. Love your background. It looks good.
Don't you? I've got this banner back here that spices things up a little bit. I like it.
It looks like you got a new lighting or something. It looks like you've been working on it.
We've been working on it. We've been kind of testing the lights in different areas and seeing how things look, where they look. What's weird is, the color on the lives looks a lot better, I think, than the color on the videos, than the recorded videos.
Yeah, it looks good.
But
it looks nice.
It always seems like it's everything's in a state of constant change around here. We're always trying to find the best setup.
That's it. That's the way it goes.
Now, it's no Staying Still Experts background like you've got going there. I like your background so much.
Yeah, I look like I'm being abducted by aliens with all these lights shining down on me here.
I know the feeling. Well, hey, let's say hello to a few folks who have checked in with us. The first one, as usual, is Roger. Welcome, Roger. So the question was, let me know you're here by saying hi and where you're from. That's very specific, Roger, but also applicable. So, answered the question. Good deal. Alan's with us. Alan Moffat. Oh, man, I hope I got that right. I apologize for that. From Scotland. What in the world? Welcome, Alan. Appreciate you joining us. James Raines is here from Longview in the great state of Texas. I'll tell you what, if it's anything like our usual live broadcast, Texas is typically well represented.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of folks from the great state of Texas. Tanner Poland's joining us from Oklahoma. Welcome, Tanner. It's great seeing you. Walter Montpettit is here from Wally in Ottawa. Walter, welcome. So we've got United States, we've got Canada, we've got Scotland covered. What a deal. Talk about international group here. Guys, I'm so glad you're with us. Caleb, first and foremost, I'm glad you're with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Joe. It's always good to see you.
For sure. Hey, guys, I want to say while Caleb's here, and I usually say it when Caleb's not here, but I want to say thank you to Staying Still Experts. As you guys know, they sponsor the live broadcasts. If you like more information about Staying Still Experts, link is in the description below. Caleb won't say this, so I have to say this for him. If you guys wanted to find some stain, please go check out Staying Still Experts. They got a great product. So that's actually how they came to sponsor the channel. Caleb and I have known each other for, years it feels like at this point. And, we checked out, as a fencing contractor, we wanted to add staining to our business. We wanted to add another complimentary service. And we checked out a bunch of stains, and because there's a lot of stains out there. But the one thing I couldn't get past is that chemical smell, right? It's just, and not naming names, but if you stained it all, you know who we're talking about. You open up the lid and it's just chemical right in your face. And, I said, I don't feel comfortable using it. If I don't feel comfortable using it, I don't want to put my guys and gals in that position of having to use it as well. And then I jumped on actually Caleb's Facebook group and started checking them out and got some samples in. And that was the first big thing I noticed was when you open it up, there's not a chemical smell. Right, Caleb?
Yep, that's right. Used to wash that smell off of me every day, and it didn't all the way come off, back when I was using all these other different stains, and just made sense to make something that didn't stink, I didn't want to smell bad. So,
right.
And little known to me at the time was that if it stunk, it meant it was full of carcinogens and stuff. And those are bad for you too, right? So
absolutely. Well, and I think that was, what I was picking up on was that was kind of my instinct was that if it smells super chemically, if it smells like chemicals, there's probably something in there you don't want on you.
Yeah. Well, the main one that concerned me was the VOC being, VOC can help some stains, but also it's evaporating and it's coming up in the air and it's going into your lungs and don't like it, don't need it. So just figured we'd do without.
Yeah, even if you use a big one of those long wands, you're still the closest thing to that vapor cloud for sure.
Yeah, and it takes weeks for that smell to go away, sometimes months. So,
I agree.
Found a better way.
That's right. So the better way is Standing Still Experts. If you guys haven't checked them out, for the two of you in the world that are out there, you got to check them out. They've got a free Facebook group where they talk about all things staining. Caleb, this subject came up, or this comment came up yesterday, the day before in the group. Someone was applauding you and Ashley for, in the group. There's other groups out there that are very pro one manufacturer, right? Your guys' group is pro staining.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're there for the staining community. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a breath of fresh air to see you guys allow discussions about any stain and any application method and anything that's good for the industry. You guys, you let the discussion happen. And I think that's rare.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I understand if this was a page to sell a product and only to sell a product, then I can understand companies doing that. But our idea is not necessarily to sell products. Our products they're going to sell no matter what. We're not concerned about that. We want to learn about what's going on in the industry and, get smarter. We have a whole crew of contractors that work for us as well. And so those guys need to learn, and we need to know what's going on in the world. And so does everybody else. We'd be silly to get inside of a box and close ourselves in. So I think it just makes sense to push the industry forward and open it to all levels of discussion. And that's what we do.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But anyway, I think that's rare though in the world of social media. So I want to say thank you, just for allowing that to happen. Just it being a room that's open for various discussions and dialogue.
Yeah, sure. No, makes sense to me.
So Caleb, how goes things in the world of staining?
It's busier than it's ever been, and I think that's true for everyone. So we're just navigating the uncertain waters of 2021 and getting stuff done and hoping the rain holds off as much as possible and sending stain down the road,
Right now, getting days without rain is pretty rare, seems like, at least here in the Midwest.
Same here. We've had a lot of rain.
Yeah. But one day the rain's going to dry, and then we'll have to find something else to complain about. It'll be too hot, or it'll be too windy, or we'll find something.
Yep. The dirt will turn, for fence guys, the dirt will turn to rock soon. And
that's right.
It's either mud or rock. That's the way it is.
Those are your two options. Hard as rock, or it'll be a muddy swamp. There's about 2 days a year where it's optimal digging, weather.
Yeah, that's right.
You say hi. So Roger says, you have a great audience, even if Mark Olson doesn't show up. Well, Roger, I agree. Now Mark's a good guy, but there's more good people in this audience. Now, if Mark shows up, we'd love to have him. But if he doesn't,
he's probably flying right now.
I bet he is.
If he would come on live.
Wally wants to know, are there any updates on the dunk tank for staining?
Yeah, but there's no steel.
Right.
Yeah, Wally, we've actually we've got people here to make them, working on CAD plans and drawing and putting stresses on it with CAD software. I'm not a CAD guy, so I don't know, but basically we could build this thing on a computer and then we can put stresses on it, like they do for building bridges and stuff. And that's in progress, but the steel shortage is pretty nuts right now, and we don't want to be having to buy steel from scrap guys. So, it's kind of the only steel available right now. So we're just waiting to see what's going on with the steel market.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah. You showed me some kind of initial design ideas. I like it a lot, Caleb. I mean, it's
simple technology,
Sure. Keep it simple for sure. But it's a lot of times, guys, it's one of those things where you don't realize it till you look at it, right? When you look at it, you're like, oh, of course. Like, that makes perfect sense. But if you hadn't seen it, I probably would have never thought about it. So I'm glad to see what you guys are up to there. But yeah, you're right. So the markets in general right now are just short, right? So take your pick on commodities. Whether, we had a discussion in the group a few days ago. Lumber commodities continue to set record highs for the lumber commodity. So I'd have to check. I think the last closing on the lumber commodity was like $1,580 a thousand board feet, which is nuts considering that a year ago it was in that 300 to 400 range. So
Yeah,
I think,
and what's really nuts is all the loggers talking about all the logs that are laying there unprocessed.
yeah, that's an interesting conversation to have as well. Yeah, the logs are still there waiting to be processed, and according to the loggers, they're not getting paid anymore for the logs. So it makes you wonder, where this is coming from. So I think where we're getting ready to be in is less of a shortage scenario, but more of just the commodity traders kind of artificially setting the price of where lumber is going to be. So
Yeah.
right now, when we say 1580, it's $1,580 per thousand board feet delivered in July. So right now they're working on July deliverables, which means it's going up, right?
Yeah.
If you look at where the commodity price was 2 months ago, which would have been our May deliverables, well, compare that to where it is today as far as commodities pricing, it's almost double from where it was a couple months ago.
Yeah, we're
So,
seeing it in industry. Everyone I talk to it's the same. There was the chlorine industry. There was a big plant that burned in the chlorine industry, a big chlorine producing factory or plant. So that hurt. We know people in the PVC industry, and of course, chlorine's instrumental in the production of PVC glues. There's a big resin factory, like the main factory for Kills primer and Kills coatings, burned down up in Ohio. And they're, of course, a huge buyer of raw materials. So they're pulling from other places. The boat industry, they can't get the resins. They need to make boats. And it's crazy.
well, it isn't it crazy where it's pretty much any industry here in the United States is having some sort of shortage issues, right? Whether we're talking about hot tubs. So I've got a buddy that's got the jacuzzi dealership in the town, and he had said that they can't keep jacuzzis in. As soon as a load of jacuzzi hot tubs come in, they're all spoken for and pre-sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same
So
thing with
I've been talking to a lot of old timers who've been in it a long time and just asking them how to navigate these waters. And what they're telling me is they've dealt with this issue for years, but it was different. And so, for instance, maybe one company that produces some raw material would put something on allotment, on allocation, and we all know what that means now.
sure.
And they would do it, and they said to drive up the prices. They would just do it to drive up the prices for a little while, or there would be a labor shortage, or if there was a fire at a factory, then other factories. So factories make things for each other, and they have agreements. If Joe, if my fence company burns down, would you send me a couple crews to help me out? And vice versa.
Yep.
And so that's what's if there was a factory fire, they would take care of it that way. Labor shortages, et cetera. What we're seeing now is we're seeing all of it. We're seeing the material coming into the country can't get offloaded. We're seeing fires. We're seeing labor shortages. We're seeing allocations. And so a lot of the guys that are experienced have never experienced this. So it's new territory for us.
Yeah, I think aside from factory fires, which is kind of odd that there's been a lot of factory fires lately.
All over the world.
Aside from that, I think the number two issue is probably labor, right?
Yeah.
Just a general labor shortage.
I think that's the number one issue, probably.
Yeah. I would. You're probably right. So when we're talking about labor issues, and it's across the board there too. So I was talking to Forney Fence, which is where we get the shark hinges from. They said they have 90 containers out in the bay waiting to come in and get unloaded, but they've been there for the last 2 months. Container ships are just sitting out in these bays waiting to come in and get unloaded, but there's no one to unload. Well, not no one, right? But they're severely understaffed. There's not enough people to unload the container ships, or there's not enough trucks to take the containers or whatever. But this one company, this one importer has 90 containers. They're just sitting on ships waiting to come in.
Yeah, there's millions of containers sitting out there, and from what I've been told is there's a shortage on containers. Because all the containers are still full sitting in the ocean, and because of let's be honest, I guess because of a lot of stimulus money, people aren't coming to work, and they're not able to unload those containers because they don't have. There's not a shortage of people. There's a shortage of people showing up for work. So
I think that's it. And listen, guys and gals, I don't want this to turn into a political show, right? I mean, it's everyone can have their own ideas for whatever reason is, but I think it's a fact to say there are companies out there trying to get people to come to work. They've got job openings that people just aren't coming into work.
Yeah, and I'm repeating what I've been told by people in the industry. I mean, that's what they're saying. They're saying, "Hey, nobody shows up for work." So, well, yeah, I mean, we've got a Wally. We've got stuff right now on a container ship coming over from the UK, and I'm concerned about it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to sit.
The weird thing is there's no air freight available. So we knew there's a container ship issue, so we wanted air freight. You can't get anything air freighted right now. So why is that? Maybe it's spoken for, or maybe it's shut down. I'm not sure.
Well, or we saw this last year when we started getting into the wood shortage. That kind of caused a vinyl shortage. It pushed consumers that would have been wood consumers into one of the other areas of fencing, whether it's chain link, whether it's vinyl, whether it's ornamental iron and aluminum. I wonder if that's happening with freight too. If overseas shipping or the water transport, if the issues there are pushing into other transport.
Yeah, I hear of freight shortages too, and I'm not dug into that. I'm not sure what they mean. I think it's just some of these things I feel is an excuse.
Sure,
because. When COVID happened, people would call you and say, "Oh, I got COVID," and that was an excuse to not fulfill your obligations. But I feel like there's a freight shortage, is what I've been told, and I'm not sure exactly what that means. Is that a shortage on trucks, a shortage on drivers, or are they just overworked? I'm not quite sure because
probably. So one thing I've noticed coming through town, there's a lot more train traffic. There's where. On my way into work in the morning, we've got a few train crossings, and it seems like where trains used to be every couple hours, there's a train just about every hour or less coming across that crossing. So in one isolated incident, I don't know if it's like this nationwide, but in my isolated experience, it seems like train traffic is up quite a bit, which might be a result.
Yeah, so train's the cheapest way to transport, and you notice a lot of factories have train spurs where they can unload, and I wish I had one of those because it would definitely. So if anybody that's buying commercial real estate, you've got an option to get one with an old train spur that you could easily get back up and going. It'd be worth investigating because you can get lumber shipped in from anywhere in the world, from anywhere in the U.S. pretty cheap.
Yeah, and you can transport a lot more. You can transport a lot heavier loads. So one thing that comes to mind is I was over in Tulsa at the Ameristar facility. They also have a metal facility, right, where they bring in their own metal, they cut it for others and all that. Well, so they unloaded this train car, and it had, I don't know, 8 or 9 of these massive coils of steel, and they could put one of those on a truck. They're so heavy that only one of them can go on a truck to transport out, but yet a train car had 6, 7, 8 of these things on it.
Wow.
They can transport significantly more weight wise than on trucks as well.
And for pennies on the dollar, it's cheap.
Well, because you have one crew running an entire train that could be however long, as opposed to needing a driver or a driving team for every single trailer
and one engine or 2 engines. So it's pretty neat.
Well, and the way they link them up, I mean, with technology now, you could have one crew running 4 trains. You could have 2 pullers, 2 pushers, but only one crew running the entire thing because they're all linked together.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fence guy's understanding on how trains work. So that might not be completely accurate.
All I know about the ones that go around the Christmas tree.
Yep. Yeah. Me and my son are getting very well acquainted with the RC trains. All right, let's continue to say hello. Man, Roger is always on the ball here, and he's right. Everyone, don't forget to hit the like button. Also, if you guys are watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We're still around 95, 96% of the people that watch the videos aren't subscribed. Now, I know if you're taking time out of your Saturday morning to watch a live interview, you probably already subscribed. But if you haven't, please consider it. Alan's got a question. During this lockdown, we've had trouble sourcing materials. So it's basically the supplier gets a pressure-treated timber in, I buy it, and it's still very wet and green. Do you suggest a product that I can stain pretty quickly after installation?
So I'll address both ends of the question because I'm not sure. So one, lumber, when I was a kid in the fence business, we would call on a truckload of lumber and they'd say, it's getting cut today. It's going to be in pressure treatment tomorrow. And then, which would be Saturday. And we'll have it here on Monday and you can get it. And I would go, wow. So green lumber, that's no new thing. But do you suggest a product that we can stain quickly? So I don't know if he means, can we stain is there a stain we can use to stain it quickly, or is there another type of lumber that we can stain more quickly? So first of all, kiln dried lumber, you can stain it on day one. But you don't have that option, it sounds like. So you can there's some water-based stuff that's coming out that's made specifically for like treatment process. And that's kind of popular. It usually looks really bad. It's really pastel colors. It's light, and it's not made to be an absolutely beautiful showpiece. But you can stain with that stuff. Probably the best thing to do is let it dry for a couple days and a couple weeks, whatever, and stain it. If you've got to get it done quickly, go ahead and do it. It's not going to last as long as it would have if you waited 8 months to stain it. But you're going to get stain on it. It's going to work. It's going to look great. And you're not gonna lose that beautiful pop of the wood grain that you lose when you let wood sit too long before staining it. So, moisture content, get you a moisture meter and check it. And wet and green lumber, once you get it down to 13%, it depends on where you are. If you're in the deep South, you may only be able to get 15 or 16. But once you get that percent down out of the 20s and into the low teens, go ahead and stain it.
Well, now Alan's actually coming to us from Scotland, so that answer is probably going to change a little bit. My understanding, Scotland stays a bit wetter than we see here in the United States, but percentages are going to stay the same, but timelines might be a little bit different.
Yeah. So for Alan, he probably has I'm not sure what the stain market's like over there, but there's probably a lot more water-based coatings over there. So you can probably do this in the low 20s. As far as moisture percentage goes, if your humidity is high, it will take longer. But if you have a very low humidity, probably a week in rain-free weather, you would probably be able to stain that.
Sure,
I would say so.
Now, and we probably ought to talk about how to test moisture, right? So Amazon has a variety now of handheld moisture meters. Used to be, and I say used to be, a couple years ago, there was I think there's two options at the time on Amazon. Now it seems like when I go on to reorder, there's all sorts of handheld moisture meters. Really, the one that we use, and please correct me, Caleb, but the one we use has two sharp prongs that go into the lumber. They actually penetrate the lumber, and then they'll test the moisture. You guys still use those? Yeah,
it's a resistance. They're checking resistance. It's ohms. If my understanding is correct, but they're just checking ohms, and you can get those usually at most local hardware stores. Most small town stores will have them. They're about $20 to $30, and they'll last you forever. But there's a probeless one, and then the one with the probes. I like the one. I feel better sticking the probe into the wood, knowing I'm getting an accurate reading.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same way, because really what you're wanting to see is the moisture content of the wood, not of the surface anyway.
And there's the touch tests too. So you can touch your hand on the wood, and if it feels cold and wet, it is probably wet. If it feels just dry, you don't feel any cold or dampness to it, then you can probably go ahead and stain it. That's the next best thing.
Gotcha. Very good. Billy Groves watching from Pensacola, Florida. There we go. So, guys, let's address something real quick. Sometimes my pronunciation isn't the best. So, in a video we did of who was it? It was the Miter 10 video we did. I said Australia, New Zealand, but in the video it sounds like I said Austria. So that's one of the comments we get there is like, "Hey, bloke from the States, Austria is nowhere near New Zealand." Like, no, I know. It's Australia. I get it. As an American, I'm fairly familiar with the countries involved in World War II. Like, I know Austria is nowhere near New Zealand, but sometimes I pronunciate, and I say Florida instead of Florida. But anyway, I digress. Billy, welcome. Thank you. Ed Duffield here from coastal North Carolina. Got my first gate built this week thanks to all the help last Saturday. Ed, you're very welcome. So, Caleb, we actually watched several guys' videos on how to build wood gates. We watched we watched Mark's video, and then we also watched who Mr. Fence's video. We watched a couple of videos on how to build gates. So Ed, I'm glad we were able to help you.
So what's the we'll talk about gates if you want for a second. What's the how many cross braces are they doing now? The diagonals.
So, well, depends on who you ask. So Mark did one cross brace, from the upper outside corner down to the bottom gate post corner or the hinge side corner. Now, the conversation that we get into in the chat sometimes is, do you cut the diagonal brace or do you cut the middle brace? So we talked about that for a little bit. Now, Sean, Mr. Fence, uses a lot of braces. So, but so he showed, so I think it was 2, 3, 4, 5. He used like 6 2x4s to build this gate. So it's a lot. There's a lot of structure there, but they had like something like 800 or 900 pounds worth of guys swinging on this gate. And then it had, I think he said it had like a half inch or quarter inch of deflection. So
that sounds like the way we used to do them. We would leave our 3 runners and then we would put a cross between the runners, between the bottom and middle, and then the middle and top, and they would come from hinge bottom to the top corner, and then we would stick pieces between the runners on the end of the gate, and then another 2 before the full length of the gate would be kind of over it.
Yeah.
And you can, and it gives you a handle to grab and open the gate. And that would keep everything together. It worked really well. You could stand on it. It was great design. We did that. I guess my dad's still in the fence business. He still does them. They still do them that way. It works well.
Must be on to something good there.
Yeah, but he'd smack me off the gate if I was hanging off the gate. When I was a kid.
Yeah. Dads do not like it when you mess around with gates. Leave it. It works.
Yeah. Number one thing the customer does the day you set post is walk out and go, wow, that's sturdy. Yeah.
I want to test these posts. Let me shake it. And you could just see my dad's face getting redder. Like, don't touch the post.
Yeah.
Leave them. All right. Fishing and Picking joining us. Welcome. YouTube channel Ken's Carpentry showed a lumber rail yard that is overloaded with lumber. He calls his supplier. They say they don't have any lumber. Oh, and then so the next thing is, so we went looking and found out there isn't enough truck drivers to get the wood.
But there was before. So is it that there's more demand, or is it that there's less people coming to work? We should
both.
Yeah, it could be both.
Yeah, I think it probably is, because, as you know, demand in the market right now is really high on the consumer end.
Yeah,
I mean, demand is incredibly high right now.
I have to wonder, is it more than before? I mean, we've always had high demand for fencing. Is it more than before?
In our, I say in our experience, so in Ozark Fence's experience, demand is absolutely higher now than it has been before. We noticed
driving that demand. Is it because multifamily construction is higher than ever before as well?
So what we're seeing is more folks are home, so they're spending more time in the yards with the kids and more pets. Like, I don't know how you would track that, like pet ownership, but incredibly high. So we're in the middle of our home show right now. I was out there yesterday. I'll be out there this afternoon. Lots of pet talk. Just got a pet. Just got a puppy. So, I mean, there might be that. I mean, that's the joke, right? In the fencing industry, the 3 things that keep a fence company in business are kids, pets, and bad neighbors. And kids and pets can go either way. Either your kids or the neighbor's kids, your pets or the neighbor's pets, keeping them in or out of the yard. Pet ownership right now is really high, probably because more people are staying home, so they want companionship while they're home. Would be my guess. I mean, there's also stimulus money in the market, so I mean, I think demand's high, and I think that's also so demand's high and supply's low. Supply in terms of labor.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Absolutely. All right, so let's catch up here. Hey, check this out. Stand Steel Expert says, hey, guys. Stand Steel Experts, hello.
That must be Mandy. Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Mandy.
Craig, Bernie Burns. What's up, Bernie? So Bernie and I met, first time we met, I think, was Social Media Marketing World out in San Diego. He's from the LA area. I said there's still a huge amount of ships in LA Harbor because the port is backed up. There'll be shortages for a while. Yeah, so that's the Forney fence. The 90 containers is one company has waiting on. They're outside the LA harbor. So yeah, they're just sitting there. Which
I've heard Savannah's. So if anybody listening's in the import-export business, I've heard Savannah, Georgia is not as bad as the rest of them. So I'm hoping what we got comes to Savannah.
Yeah, the problem is, so what you've got coming, so from the European unions, the Western
It'll come to Charleston or Savannah. So I'm hoping Savannah is what we get.
Yeah. Yeah, the Northeast used to have a lot of freight terminals that everything would come in, but it seems like it is kind of going more to the Southeast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know. Cameron Phillips, welcome. OBL Fence Services checking in from Pensacola, Florida. Another Florida guy. This is pretty typical. Here with the live group, we got typically Texas and Florida. There are folks from
two great states.
That's right. I like visiting both of them for sure. Which actually, I'll be in Savannah in June. So I've got a family. Got my wife's nephews graduating high school, so we're going out there. But we'll be spending a week in Savannah.
Beautiful place.
I can't wait. I hear great things. Landmark Creation says, "What's up, Joe?" I'm sure he met Caleb too. Have a great show. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ed Duffield agrees with one diagonal. Works great. In case you need to swing the whole crew on the... Yeah, that was... So Sean's video was during actually it was during an open house that over at High Steel Fence in Florida that turned into Fencing Olympics and a little bit of a training event. So they had a bunch of guys, and they all were swinging from gates. Yeah, so in case you've got a gate that you need to swing about 800 pounds worth of guys on, you build it like that. Noah's here from Ohio. Welcome, Noah.
Good morning.
OHIO. Cannon Johnson here from Jackson Fence. Cannon here. I jumped on a few gates in my time. Yeah, so I'm sure, Cannon. So I've seen Cannon run around with that group of guys that was swinging on gates. So he probably was a part of that. Terry Wayne says, have you had better luck with metal frames for gates looking to switch? We have.
Yeah.
So we switched to steel frame gates, I want to say 4 years ago. We swing them on 40 weight pipe, CS 40 pipe, and then with the shark hinges so that the hinge attaches directly to the steel post and then directly to the steel frame. We use 1.5 inch square galvanized. Works like a charm. So,
the main thing is you don't get that twist out at the bottom of the gate, and it's
steel. Or the drag.
Metal frame. Just about everything we see down here is metal frames, and which is fine for us because our stain wipes right off of metal. So almost, I would have to ask our crews, but I would say 75% is metal framed.
Yeah, it's all we do. It is just our default. It's our standard gate. Because so 2018 was the last data or last report that was out, but the number one reason for fencing callbacks in 2018 was for gates.
Yeah, it's always
the number one warranty item. Yeah, they drag. I mean, that's probably the number one reason. If you break down gate callbacks, number one reason probably is that stinking thing drags. The gate got built over the winter, and so the grass was dormant and it was really short. And then the grass started growing and the gate started drooping, and it led to a gate that drags and won't open. So we do doing steel frame on steel post. We put a lifetime warranty on the gates, lifetime workmanship warranty on the gates.
Yep.
Because when we go back, it's literally a 5-minute fix. Sometimes the hinges will come out of adjustment. They'll rotate around. And so we'll just loosen them, realign them, tighten them back up, and we're done.
Yeah.
Sometimes adjusting the striker.
Yeah, and the post is key as well. I've seen a lot of wooden post with a metal frame, and that's kind of okay, but that post can still bend in or out. But steel frame, steel post, it's lifetime.
We built them with wood posts for a long time. Yeah. I mean, I've been the guy. We did the 4x6, we did the 6x6 with steel frame. We did steel post, steel frame, but with regular wood hardware. We've kind of tried it all, and this is a system.
West Coast, I see a lot more wooden frames, but they've got a lot more stability in their weather, and they've got redwood, which is very stable. So like Reuben, I'm sure they do metal frames, but all the gates that I saw were beautiful redwood. Joints were tight. We'd go look at jobs from a year ago and joints were still super tight. So I think definitely that makes a difference.
Well, I think you're right too in the stable environment.
Yeah.
When we're talking about California, it's got a pretty stable environment.
Well, and redwood's extremely stable lumber.
Yeah. If I could get redwood, I would love my life for sure.
Yeah. Well, we can get it.
Product.
Can you? You want to pay for it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Will your market support that change to be 30% higher than everybody else?
Right.
Yeah. I think I could do it in Nashville. St. Louis, you could probably do it. You're Springfield's a pretty good sized town.
It's a good market. It really is. I've priced it before, and it was at the time it was significantly higher. Now that's probably been 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. So I probably ought to check it again.
Yeah. So in Tennessee, redwood was really common building material in the 70s, probably 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so we used to see a lot of it, but it's gone. It's gone now.
Yeah.
So, but it's a stable lumber. It works well.
Well, and it's going to get back into transportation, right? So you're going to have to figure out how to transport it from the West Coast into the Midwest. But yeah, I would love to have it.
I've seen some incense cedar decking coming out. I don't know if anybody's got any experience with that. Kiln dried incense decking.
We didn't use the decking. We've used incense cedar pickets, and we had a lot of issues. It was kiln dried. We had a lot of issues with splitting. So
were they treating the ends?
No.
Oh, that would fix that.
Yeah. So, and that's what was splitting was, it was, the price was right. It was priced well, and it was a cedar product. So it lasted. The problem was splits. I mean, it was during that frame, that was our number one callback.
Yeah. So there's a product, there's an end grain sealer. So we were talking with someone we both know that was milling some of their own wood from scraps and stuff. They were milling it, maybe 8-foot boards that had a bad end. They'd cut them down, make them 4 foot for doing a stake top or something. And they had the same issue. And there's an end grain sealer that you can get, and you spray it right on the ends of the bundles, and it stops the end grain splitting. So if you ever have to go back to your old ways, seal those end grains. It will probably be worth your while.
I'll be honest. I've thought about reaching back out and saying, "Hey, listen, we didn't end on the best terms. I canceled a couple loads just because we had ordered 3 loads. One came in, and when they came in on the truck, we unloaded them. And Caleb, I would say 20% of these pickets were split already, just on the truck.
In a world where you can call people and say, do you want this load or not? And you have to give an answer. You can't even ask what the price or the time frame is. It's easy for somebody to just go, all right, we'll just sell it somewhere else. But the good news is my booth is next to him at Fence Tech. So come hang out in my booth next year. Yep. And we can hold hands and kumbaya with your old friends.
I like him.
Yeah, great guy.
I like him a lot. We couldn't come together and reconcile that 20% split when it showed up. And so that was kind of my point.
The environment, man. It's just nuts.
Well, and at the time, I mean, I'll defend him a little bit. At the time, it was right when this COVID was really catching hold. And so demand spiked. And again, so that's when the labor issues began. So they were having trouble keeping up with demand. And so he had said it's probably a quality. We were supposed to catch those and we didn't. We're trying to push these things out as fast as possible. So, I mean, there's that side of the conversation as well.
Can you imagine how stressful his job is? That's tough.
No. Yeah.
So are you grading your pickets when they come in? Do you guys grade them in house, or do they show up and y'all just slap them on the fence?
Yep. Well, I mean, we'll grade to some extent. If the knot holes are loose or if the knots have a split, we'll grade those out. Or if it has a split more than 4 inches, we'll grade it out.
So I've seen a lot of lumber show up, and you'll have anything from prime clear boards to junk, all the way through the spectrum to junk in one bundle. Ooh. And if you had 100 bundles there, you could take your primes, put them over here. You could take your thirds over here, and you could take your clear boards, and eventually you'd have lumber there for, hey, you want a clear fence? We can offer you that now.
So we're using Alta Western Red Cedar, and so when it comes in, it's pretty well graded. Because they sell it based on grading.
Do they?
So it's pretty well graded. So the one thing we're culling out for is splits more than 4 inches, loose knot holes or knot holes with splits in them that we know are going to fall out. So we'll cull those out and we sell them for scrap. We're still working on ideas on how to use those. You and I have talked about that.
Fish grilling planks, my man. Send me some.
I hear you. So one thing we've been doing, like as a company, is for customer thank yous, is we'll paint them with chalkboard paint, and we'll include orange chalk for the kids, and we'll as a thank you.
Your company's doing great things when you have ladies in charge of things.
Agreed.
Yeah, you
Absolutely
would have never done that. Yeah,
no.
the old man would be like, "Get those out of here, burn them, throw them away,
sell them for cost. I don't care, whatever.
Let's paint them with chalkboard paint. How about that? And we'll give them to our customers."
Yeah, as soon as she said that, I was like, "Oh, that is a great idea. We need to do that immediately." She's like, "I know."
Tell her to call me with some of those ideas.
I will, absolutely. All right, Cannon's saying I've been known to swing on gates here and there. I know you have. I've seen you swing on gates before. Jeff says deck restoration is up everywhere since everyone is home looking at their decks and outdoor wood living surfaces. Well, this is kind of the conversation that we had in the Sand Steel Experts group when talking about wood commodities on the rise.
Yeah,
that's my take from the staining perspective is restoration and preservation is going to be huge in the coming years as we see prices get really crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And good morning, Jeff. Jeff bought my supper the other night. He's actually in Nashville for a franchise show. And I took him down to Robert's Western World where we went and heard the really good honky-tonk music with the 20-year-old guitar player.
I saw you live.
Jeff liked that. So that's who I was there with.
Okay.
And looks like he slipped down there again last night. I think he liked it.
It's a good time. It's a really good time.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff's Deck Medic, right?
Yeah, Deck Medic. They've got 16 locations. They do roughly 3,000 decks a year, last I heard. Probably more than that now. But yeah, so he's right. Wood is expensive. Protect it. I mean, that's going to be my marketing campaign for the next 2 years, probably. I mean, it's gone up, and we got to protect it. And we know how the industry now for wood staining professionals. And I won't take credit for this personally, but I think our Facebook group, Staining University, is a huge has a huge factor on the industry as a whole because we've taken 2,500 guys that have all been doing it effectively but differently for the last 30, 40 years, some of these guys, and we've put it all together. And I've seen in the last 5 years the market, just the knowledge base is just going straight up.
Absolutely.
So I think we're better at it now than we've ever been. We're getting better. So now we know what we're doing more, and we can really do a good job on people's outdoor living areas with their decks and fences without the issues that a lot of brands of stain or a lot of application techniques cause. So yeah, right now the consumer is getting a better deal, I think, than they ever have before.
I agree. One of the things my granddad used to always say is the best way to have nice things is to keep your things nice. It's the easiest way to have nice things, or I forget exactly what the saying was, but something to that effect. But it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Is if you keep your things nice, they last longer, and it means you have more nice things if you keep the things nice.
Yeah. My grandfather always just really particular about taking nice care of his things. And I was around it a lot as a child and a young adult, and still to this day. And in my 20s, I just felt like that I must have skipped a generation, because I was in such a hurry. But now I notice myself keeping my cars cleaner, washing my windows, taking care of my stuff, sweep the grass off the lawnmower deck when you're done, or whatever it is. But it's important to take care of your stuff. And outdoor living is one of them, especially you just paid 3 times as much for a deck. You got a quote last year and now it's 3 times as much. You better take care of that. So
absolutely. I mean, you can't afford not to.
I wonder what's happening in the exotic world. I've not followed that. So the exotic woods, I wonder, is the gap lessening, or is exotic woods following the trend as well, going up?
You know what? I will have that answer for you next week, because there's some guys at the HBA home show that I'm going back to this afternoon that's all they do is exotics. So they had some
I love exotics.
Yeah,
I love them. That we're getting more calls for exotic wood than ever before, and I think, but most of it's restoration. So we're seeing exotics that guys had no idea how to maintain, and they're 2 years old and they look like crap. and we're coming in and fixing them and putting them on maintenance plans. But I'm just curious about that. I would love to see more exotics because this stuff lasts forever.
Yeah, I'll chat with those guys this afternoon. So on next week's live, I'll report back with that conversation, see what the exotics market is looking like. Frank says, Jeff, deck restoration and log home restoration is insane this year, even crazier than last year. Absolutely. And I think it'll continue to get even crazier as you see lumber prices increase. People aren't going to be able to afford to replace it. So we had a couple conversations yesterday at the show with people that didn't want to replace their fence. They only wanted to clean and stain it. Great. We do that. You bet.
Yeah.
So I think there's more of that.
Seen the log homes as well, restoration, but I think that's standard, but you got to maintain those. In our market, it's not a big log home market. Like you'll see a few out there, but it's not like out where you guys are. Where you guys we looked at Mandy's quoting one right now. It's like maybe 5,000 or 8,000 square feet. It's just gorgeous. And the last stain used was oil based, and it was a linseed based product, and the whole house is turned black.
I bet so.
Black. It's 2 years old. The stains fell and it's black. Big name brand stain. And the good news is it's oil based, so we can strip it easily. So.
Well, at the Young Guns event, you and I had a conversation with someone else that had like an entire community of log homes. Yeah,
MJ out in Knoxville. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's everywhere.
I mean, it's fun to hear how things are different places. Like here, you'll see. Like I can think of 2 or 3 log homes I've seen like in our area, in my service area. But out there where you guys are, you got whole communities of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna get me one of these days.
Tyler says, "Good morning from Wisconsin." Tyler, good morning. I've got some family up in Wisconsin in Kenosha. Terry Wayne, thanks for the advice. So true about the callbacks. You're very welcome, Terry. I'm a big fan of steel frame gates, using steel posts. Now, I absolutely understand one of the drawbacks is the cost, right? A single gate costs $400 or something like that. For wherever your numbers work out, it's usually between $350 and $450 a gate. So there is some cost associated with it, but if you position it correctly, right? Hey, the number one call, but Mr. and Miss Customer, the number one callback on fences is gates. The reason you're putting this gate here is you'd like to use it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, how about let's talk about a gate that is built to last rather than a gate that is built to be repaired over time. Yeah. Conversation. All right. Ray Ellis says, I'm curious about why you use round steel tubing for gate posts and not square tubing. I'm streaming your show in Colorado. Ray, thank you for streaming the show in Colorado. Appreciate that. Mainly because it works with the hardware, right?
Well, so square posts cost a lot more than a round as well.
Right. But, as I was saying, we can make cost work, right? Mm-hmm. We can, as long as you get better quality or better results, we can justify cost. But you get the same similar results. Square is going to be stronger on deflection. It's going to show less deflection than round will, just as a structure. But it works with the hardware, right? So we use the Shark hardware. It's built for a round post. Mm-hmm. So think 180-degree hinge, how that bolts onto the gate post, and that's pretty much the mounting hardware that Shark uses, or the mounting method that Shark uses. Right. So I'll be honest. I think a round post is probably stronger than a square post. I don't want to start a big debate, but a round, commercial, the most heavy duty commercial construction there is in chain link. I mean, it's round post. The square post we always saw for like estate gates and things like that. Yeah. And they were more decorative. They were strong, but if you needed the strongest of the strong, you would go with a round post, and it's cheaper. I would rather spend less and have, what I mean, a stronger post. Well, and like I said, I don't mind paying more if you get better results. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that you get better. And to your point, maybe you get lower.
I don't know that you get a better result for the added expense.
Yeah. I don't mind paying more if we get a better result. Let's do it. Yeah, and we do that pretty much throughout the spectrum. We build fence right now we're building it exclusively out of cedar. I said almost exclusively. We used to offer treated pine, now with the price.
You still using any of the Eastern cedar?
Cannot find it in quantity.
Really?
No.
Yeah, we've got 2 mills within 5 miles of us in either direction in quantity. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the summertime, like when we're really pushing hard, we need a truckload about every 3 weeks, and they weren't able to keep up.
Yeah.
So they're good for a truckload every 5 or 6 weeks or so, and it started messing with the production schedule, and that meant frustrated customers, and frustrated installers, frustrated office.
That's the problem. We speak to so many guys around the country and the world, and we hear, "Oh, I've got an unlimited supply of this cedar here. I've got a great supply of this." And I go, "Really? Do you do?" And they go, "Yeah. Would you be willing to sell us some?" "Oh, certainly. Certainly." I said, "Well, can we get 40 truckloads?" And they go,
"Yeah,
maybe 1 truckload every 3 months." And I go, "Okay, that's the way it is. That's the demand is so high."
The definition of unlimited is different to different people.
Yeah, it certainly is. So that's the way it goes. And the good news is hopefully these log cutting guys will start making some more money instead of it going everywhere else. But
so we've got a competitor in our market that their family has a mill kind of in eastern Missouri that mills eastern red cedar for them, and then sells the excess just to the market. So my sister and I walked by their booth yesterday, and that was my comment. Like, I wish we could get eastern red cedar in the same availability that we could get the western red. It was actually priced more competitively than what the western red Alta.
Yeah, we used a lot of it back in the day. I mean, not
it's
anymore.
Pretty.
It's beautiful.
It's really nice, and it lasts. It's now. So the hardcore wood guys out there are typing furiously right now that eastern red cedar is not actually a cedar, and you're right. It's a juniper. I absolutely get it. We have these conversations. We would have these conversations each year when we show these boards at shows. The old timers would come by like, "Oh, what's this board?" "Oh, that's eastern red cedar." "That's not cedar, son." Like,
does your eastern red cedar, is it aromatic? Does it have the big wonderful smell? So that's what we have here, and it's cedar. Everybody calls it cedar.
Yeah, well, yes. So cedar's the common name, but if you looked at the scientific name, it's a juniper. Which
we have 2 kinds family. Here. We have 2 here.
Okay.
They cut them, and nobody, they'll cut them all down, and they'll call it all the same thing. But you have one that's a bush all the way to the ground, and then you have one that grows, and there's not as many of these left. Then you have one that's a cedar tree, the same bark, but it grows like a redwood tree. It grows big, tall, and the limbs don't start until way up high.
That's what we've got.
And we've got my wife's grandpa, I'll ask him today when I see him, but what's the difference? Because he's told me I think he's called one was a red cedar and one was a cedar, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So who knows? But we've got 2 here, and they're very distinctly different, but very the same. It's
Yeah, judging by the log. So I went and picked up bundles from this mill a few times, and judging by the logs I saw on the ground, they look like redwood logs. I mean, smaller, but redwood logs. All right, let's see here. Frank says, "I think the next 5 years we'll see a lot of just maintenance coats on these low VOC stains and making it easier for upcoming years. Me and 2 other contractors are going with the same log home low VOC stain to make it easy for us to have 100, 200 log homes for the next 3 to 7 years to just maintain. Never worry about those crappy products." Yep, always easier to maintain.
Yeah, that's what we're noticing in our business now. We're starting to get the roll around from before, and the maintenance coats we're doing on fences now, we go wash them, and a day later, because our stain's still working, the moisture content's 9% 2 days later after it's rained all week, and it's really nice because you can wash them, you can get in and stain them really quick, and so we made the right choice. I'm starting to see more and more how these stains are really, really good for the contractor.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, and maintaining is always better than trying to remove and restain.
Yeah.
It's faster, it's less expensive because it's faster, less expensive to the customer.
Mhm.
It's a better proposition all the way around. It's a better system all the way around. Tyler K says lived in Kenosha for a bit, now in Racine. I've been to Racine as well. You guys have a Mexican restaurant that everyone loves up there. Matt Shaver says, good morning from Minnesota. Out with my boys doing some gates. Irony. Got the boys with me training them to be men. Grassland Solutions. Well, Matt, you're doing as my granddad would have said, you're doing the Lord's work by teaching young guys, getting them trained up. You know
That's
what I mean?
true. That is true, Joe. It is. We need more skilled tradesmen, and not only that, we need more men that know how to act like men and be men and take responsibility and do what's right than ever before.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Jake, I'm sorry, Jake. Archuleta. I'm really sorry. I know I butchered that. Says from Colorado. Oh, what's that?
It's Jake.
Jake from Colorado. Treated pine warps bad out here. Only use cedar for my company. So it's funny that treated pine acts differently depending on where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So Colorado's really, my experience is Colorado's really dry. So it's got low humidity. It's a pretty dry climate, which you probably, Kayla, you probably have more experience with this than I do. But my understanding of why wood warps is it dries unevenly.
It dries too quickly.
And then it pulls to the dry side, right?
Yeah, and what we would see is the wood is soaking and it warps so badly here because one day it would be soaking wet, the next day it's 120 degrees out, and the whole fence dries in 12 hours and everything warps. I think in Colorado it's probably much the same, that it's not as hot there, but it's so dry in the air that it just dries the wood. So if I were going to run all treated pine and you had the time and the resources, it'd be better to dry it slowly on your yard for a while before using it, I think. But I think you're still going to have loss. I mean, you're going to have loss no matter what.
Well, so it's funny when you talk to guys, Texas, the Gulf states, Florida, they're big pine markets. And pine acts differently down there because it is a humid climate. It is a wet climate.
Southeast, it's really big.
Yeah.
We had a lot of luck with, have you ever used, not locust, it grows in the swamp, cypress.
Oh.
We used to put in a ton of cypress. It's a really popular lumber. It's really yellow. It does turn, I think it's got some sugars or something in it, and it turns black, but it's a fantastic, stable lumber. Really, really well.
Well, let's start milling it.
Yeah, it's being milled as we speak. They build log homes out of it. They build trim inside, interior or exterior. It's a lot of, in Tennessee, we had a big run on fence boards on it for 3 or 4 years. We would get them. They were 1/2 inch. They were thin boards, but they were not free. They were just held up beautifully, straight as an arrow. Yeah, full 6 inch. It was nice.
I'm always willing to try something. You know what I mean? Just to see if we can find a better product for the market. Because here's the thing: it's a John King will tell you it's a twofer, right? It's good for the customer. It's good for the contractor if you can find a better product. The
cypress, there's not enough of it is the problem. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It'll never keep up with demand.
Walt Dennis here with us. Hello.
Good morning, Walt.
Good morning. Josh says price. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say Walt has created a new stain color for Stain and Seal Experts. He's on our development team, our board of advisors.
Board of advisors?
Yeah, I think you might be on that team too, Joe. So,
all right.
So he's been mixing our sable and our auburn stain. So kind of a reddish color with a brownish color. And he's come up with one right in the middle of the two, and he names it Tobacco Brown. And so you will soon see a new color called Tobacco Brown.
I like that a lot. I tell you what, it's good to know Walt. It really is. I enjoy talking with Walt a lot. Him and Kenny. If I could have ridden in that car from Texas up to Nashville, can you imagine like just the knowledge they got bounced around that vehicle?
And all the barbecue they ate.
Yes. All right, Josh has a pricing question when you have time. So you price solely by the foot, or is it something like fence by the foot plus X dollars per gate? Yeah, so we price out gates separately just because every project's going to have different gates. We don't price by the foot, though. So pricing by the foot, it can work, but is not accurate, meaning that it just, when you're looking at man hours, when you're looking at material, so, 2x4, if we're talking about wood fence, 2x4s come in 8-foot boards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had 16 foot, you have one cost, but if you have 18 feet, well, now you've got a whole nother round of 2x4s and all that. So your cost goes up, not in the same rate that your footage goes up. I don't know how to explain that,
Right.
but
you have
you know what I mean.
material.
Like your cost of material goes up, not in proportion with the footage. Anyway, so cost of material. So we'll know, if it's 220 foot, we'll look at the layout. We'll figure out how many posts, rails, pickets we have. Figure out what our material cost is and our labor cost. We know roughly how many feet of fence or how many sections of fence our guys can build in an hour, in a day. And then so once we get our labor cost, our material cost, we double it to make sure we've got 50% gross margin. And then we'll add in for the gates, same situation. I know how many gates we can build in an hour. I know what it cost us materials to build those gates. And then we double that number as well. But on the proposal, so we'll say 236 feet of 6-foot privacy fence built with Sear materials on steel post is X dollars. New line item, 2 4-foot single gates built with cedar materials on steel frames, steel post, X dollars. So we will split it out on the proposal because it seems like almost every project starts out with 1 walk gate. And then maybe they want 2 walk gates, or it starts out with 2 walk gates and they want a double gate. So they want to see how that number changes, but they don't want to see that fencing number change, at least in our market. But I hope that was clear as mud for you.
Yeah.
Matt Holt says, tips on building a fence on a concrete retraining wall. I would plate steel posts, plate the steel post on a 6x6 plate, steel plate, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch steel plate, and call it good. What do you think, Caleb?
Well, you can core drill or you can plate it. It just depends, and it depends the wind load.
Yeah.
You don't want to be using little 1/2 inch anchors or 5/16 anchors, and on a 1 inch thick slab of concrete, you may have to drill through it. So it just depends. And if it's on the edge, it could be where the wall turns down, and it may be thick. You might not be able to core all the way through it. You may have to break it out. So, sure. Yeah, it's we've done a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt continues to say, due to the price and demand for lumber, do you recommend any alternatives? Vinyl, metal, etc. I'm about to replace 8-foot fence in Oklahoma. Vinyl is in worse shape than wood right now. I mean, you can, depending on the supplier, I'm sure, but the suppliers we talk to say, as long as it's a 6-foot standard privacy fence in white, we can ship it to you in 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
No colors. No variations. Don't talk to me about 5-foot privacy with a foot of lattice. Do not talk about wood grain. Do not talk about colors. 6-foot privacy in white is pretty much what everyone's producing right now.
Well, let's talk about Matt for a minute. Here's what I'm hearing. He wants to replace an 8-foot fence in Oklahoma. So he's got a fence. It's 8 foot tall, so it's an expensive fence, and he's in Oklahoma. So chances are it's cedar. I'm thinking, let's talk about this for a minute. I mean, are your posts rotten? Do you have steel posts? If you do, you can keep the posts.
Yeah.
Are the boards just terrible? Because let's say you need to replace 20 boards. Well, we can restore that fence.
Yeah.
And replace the boards and have almost perfect match. And then you can stain and seal it for a fraction of the cost, and you got a brand new fence. Maybe something to look at. If you want help with that, send me pictures. Go to stainandsealexperts.com or call our office. We can definitely at least give you an idea of what you could do, because that's a big thing. You could be surprised,
Yeah, so it depends how the fence is built. They're in Oklahoma. So Caleb, it's probably treated pine. I know a lot of guys. So Oklahoma's next door. It's about an hour from here. Yeah, so it's pretty heavily treated pine. There's a few contractors out there. I know a few guys over there.
The markets we work in, it's 100% cedar.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's like Oklahoma City, Tulsa. So I'm interested to see.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt, tell us more.
Yeah,
show a picture if you can. But yeah, that's interesting.
Josh, you're very welcome. I appreciate you tuning in with us. Cedar Distributors is with us again. They were with us last week. Hey, guys, good afternoon from Philly.
Yeah, that's Cedar Distributors. That is a stain and seal experts distributor for the Northeast. And they have a ton of stain in stock, and they got great people to work with there. So if you're up north, give them a call.
Very good, very good. Roger wants to know, do we know of any manufacturers putting out any recycled Hdpe product as an alternative to wood? So you get into some of it. Not a lot of it, though. Caleb, do you see any of that? The recycled Hdpe, the composite type product?
Yeah, you got Louisiana Pacific Elements, the one that makes it's called engineered wood. Okay. You got that. They make that here in Nashville. Well, I don't know if they make it here, but they're based here in Nashville. But they don't do rails. They don't do posts. They just do pickets, and they're expensive. But there's a time and a place for it. I've seen that. But as far as anything else, I don't know. I'm waiting for hemp fencing to come out. The hemp boards we're seeing that, but it's really expensive. I'm interested in hemp products. If that wood will come on the market, because it would be supposedly a super strong, super long lasting alternative that is a renewable resource.
Yeah, it's renewable and it grows quickly from what I hear.
Yeah, it does. And it like cleans the ground, I think. It pulls whatever's in the ground out and toxins in the ground. So interesting. I'm kind of curious to see. I've called some people about it for wood and stuff, and I don't think it's there yet, but it may be coming.
Interesting. I'd like to see that for sure. Jake says, tried to get into some vinyl contracts, and I was in for a rude awakening. Definitely in worse shape than wood. I'm sticking with wood fencing. Yeah, vinyl's that way. Aluminum's that way. If it's custom aluminum, it's 12 weeks, period. I mean, don't think about asking for 10 weeks. It will not happen.
I've got about 6 or 8 pallets of vinyl back here in the back of my shop, fencing.
Yeah.
It's brand new, and I'd like it gone. So somebody get in touch with me if you're interested in some stuff of a mix. There's white and tan, and there's notchers. There's all kind of stuff. So love to get that out of here.
So somebody get a hold of Caleb right now.
Take my vinyl.
Well, and I know how at least here in Southwest Missouri, I know how the vinyl market is here. Someone is probably knocking on your door right now, ready to get it.
Post caps, man, you name it. Picket caps, you got it.
Gotcha. Kenny Dugan is with us here. What's up, Stain Man? Hello from Texas. Who's going to take the lead and mill Bodark Osage Orange pickets? 1 saw blade per board. Right. You almost have to plasma cut it.
Yeah. Well, they sell lightsabers. I've seen those. So if we could mount one, just run it right through the lightsaber.
We need to retrofit a lumber mill with lightsaber technology.
Yeah,
I don't see why that wouldn't work.
That would be the best fence. We have more Bodark trees than anything. That's what Indians made bows from, and I bet Kenny could spill off 100 other facts about it. But they would find Bodark tree. It's called Bodark around here.
Okay,
and it's pretty neat, and that's what you put in the fireplace before you go to bed because it'll burn all night.
Good to know. Yeah, we're all learning something here today. Yep. I'd never heard of Bodark. I mean, we have a town near here called
horseapple tree. A horseapple tree. You ever heard of a horseapple?
Okay.
It's a horseapple tree.
I'm with you.
And they really are horse apples. I was riding a horse when I was a kid, and my horse reached down and bit he'd bit a bite out of it, and then he'd walk further and bite another one. It's pretty interesting.
Good to know that's actually where that name comes from.
They like it. They like horse apples.
Good to know. Hey, guys, we're going to have to cut things short today. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So I'm sitting on a what do you call that? On a panel discussion this afternoon at the home show, Backyard Experts. So I'm going to have to cut this short. We've got probably about 15 minutes. I'm supposed to be there at 12:30. So if we cut this off at 11:30, it should give me enough time. Anyway.
Yeah, that works. Well, Joe, I want to make it a short announcement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
because this is your audience. We're going to do, so we do our Staining University class, and Kenny comes and a lot of the people come.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing kind of an online version of that here soon. Not a paid training or anything like that, but basically a webinar series. And maybe we can announce that here. I don't have a date yet. I should have a date next week. But I think for a lot of guys in the fencing business, we sent out our book, Staining 101, and we sent them out for free. And we had a couple hundred, and they just, boom, they were gone. Yeah. So apparently there's a lot of guys in the fencing business that do want to learn how to stain fences, I think more now than ever. So we're going to be doing that. And so whoever's on board, we'd love you to join us. And learning about how to go from fence business to staining contractor. And it's possible, and kind of hold you guys' hand through that and walk you through the process.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's talk more about that concept. Like as it comes out, I think that's going to be hugely popular. I mean, you saw how popular the in-person training was there in Nashville. So I would imagine a virtual training where, anyone from anywhere in the globe can take part of it. I could see that becoming very popular. We
have to. Yeah, we have no choice. It's that we need to do it, and that's just what I'm feeling like I'm being called to do right now. So we're going to do it and put it out there for everybody. So
okay, I like it. Absolutely. Jimmy's got a staining question. I need to stain and seal cedar 2x4s for a project. Any recommendations on sealing new cedar boards before it weathers?
Yeah, so there's, I don't know if this is an application or a product, but I'm going to definitely recommend stain and seal experts what's behind Joe there. If they've not been installed yet, you can probably just put them out on sawhorses and roll it on there. You can dip them. You could buy a little rain gutter and dip them in it and let it drip, but probably rolling 2x4s is easy. They're square. Yeah. And if there's a bazillion of them, then you may want to dip them, but go ahead and do that. Check the moisture. Cedar's pretty dry. Go ahead and stain them. It's going to look better to stain it sooner than later, and get it done. If you need stain, call Joe. He deals it. If you need it, call us. We got it.
Yeah. We'd be happy to help you however we can. Pre-staining is absolutely the preferred application if it's a viable solution for you at all. Just because you get every nook and cranny, you get the full entire surface. So rather than once it's nailed up, whatever that's nailed to, that surface in between there is not going to get 100% coverage.
Yeah, and that's backed by science. The U.S. Forest Product Lab has done gazillion tests and studies on it. It is vastly better to stain all 6 sides of your board. So get the end grain when you do it. Make sure to get the ends.
Yep. But the nice thing about cedar is you don't have to wait for it to season. So your question is, any recommendation on sealing new cedar before it weathers? Absolutely. Seal it before it weathers. Seal it before you put it up is the ideal scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a U.S. Forest Products Labs test, and you can look this up on the internet. There was two panels with clapboard cedar siding. They pre-finished one, and then they put another one out in the weather for 10 days side by side, and then they finished it. 25 years later, the difference is huge. 5 years later, the difference was huge. And you can follow that process all the way through the test, and it's unbelievable. At 25 years, the pre-finished one is at about 70% of, it still looks good. Yeah. The other, there's nothing left. I mean, it's just gone. The finish is totally gone. And it was an unbiased government-sponsored test, so it's very interesting what the difference is.
And that was 10 days. 10 days of exposure.
10 days of UV exposure. The UV immediately destroys wood. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go out without sunscreen. It's, in the summertime, stand in the sun for an hour.
Yeah, and don't move. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Don't move. Don't get it. Yeah. You see exactly how strong UV damage can be. Mark says we have been lucky and have tan and khaki as well as lineals to make mini styles since we fabricate. Still 6-week lead time. Yeah, so Mark and I had this conversation when he was by. So he kind of saw the writing on the wall early and ordered a significant amount of vinyl. That's Mark's story to tell, but a significant amount of vinyl. So he's in a good position. So when I did something similar when we saw wood, and I just rebought. So we saw that, wood commodities are through the roof for July delivery. So we ordered all the wood we can get our hands on right now, knowing that in July it's getting ready to be a lot more expensive. So
Imagine the stories us young entrepreneurs will be able to tell our grandkids who are starting their own business about, playing around with their money. You better make sure you have extra materials. Well, we look back at our grandparents who saved bacon grease and washed aluminum foil and thought they were crazy. And your grandkids are going to see you buying 16 truckloads in advance that aren't sold yet. And they're going to go, what is he doing? Well, there's a reason I'm doing this.
Well, Grandpa saw a bump in the commodity market, and then he bought a couple train loads of lumber. He's at it again, that crazy old coot.
Yeah.
But you weren't alive in 2021. You didn't see what happened.
Yeah, and then when it does happen, you look like a genius.
Yep.
Those old timers are getting so much smarter the older I get. When I look back on just watching what they did in every aspect of life, it's amazing how they get smarter the older I get.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. Okay. Yeah. Makes you rethink a lot of things for sure.
Yep.
Sir Distributors asks, our clients always ask if they have to tape everything off before staining, and how messy does it get? Share your thoughts for our clients.
Yeah, so it depends. There's a lot of guys who are really good at building gates and they can swing on them. And then there's some guys who are not as good, and you would probably recommend that those guys don't swing on the gates because you're probably not as good a fence builder as maybe this guy.
Sure.
And the same is true with staining. There's some guys who can get away we used to have a guy that worked for us, and he could take an airless sprayer and he could cut in next to a house and never mask it, never wet the house down, never do anything. He would, and it was stained and it looked like you did it with a brush. I don't know how he did it. I still think he was an alien life form. But he could do that. I cannot do that. So I would say if anything you're uncomfortable with, you need to mask it. Anything you're concerned with, take the time to mask it. It's a few minutes, but it's a few minutes of insurance that will save your tail. Cut things in. There's tricks we can do without cutting it in, but it's 5 minutes. Just cut the board in with a brush and then mask the house or what have you. And just don't be in a hurry.
Sure.
How about that? Just don't be in a hurry. Let's get this done. Let's slow as fast and fast as smooth, or whatever the saying is. Yeah. Slow as smooth and smooth as fast. Take your time and get it right. If you got questions, you can call us. You can call Chris's office. But we'll walk you through it. There's no sense in making a mistake. But if you do, get some of that degreaser. Chris has got that cleanup, and it'll help you get out of a tight spot.
Well, that's one thing I was going to add to what you had to say, Caleb, is that so you can also pre-apply some soapy water, right? And you can keep some degreaser on hand. You guys sell a concentrate, so you'll want to water that down a bit, but that's what we found is keeping everything super. I mean, tape off and plastic off where it makes sense, but soapy water under the plastic. And then when everything comes off, a quick degreaser, that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, and if Chris is talking about do-it-yourselfers, that's one thing. If he's talking about contractors, maybe that are trying to scale their business and they can't keep an eye on everything as it's happening, make a check-off list and make it simple. For us, we have 7 steps, and I'm about to get hammered here by my team if I don't get these 7 steps right, because I quiz them on it all the time. But there's 7 things that I want to see pictures of on a job site that eliminates a lot of these problems. So number 1, I want to see the cut-ins. So I want to see that they actually physically cut the job in with a brush. I want to see what masking they did on the house, or what furniture they've pulled off away from the house and masked, so that we have proof that we did our due diligence on masking. I want to see a yard sign. I want to see a fence sign. I want to see a before and after sign. And I want to see masking under the gate, just because a lot of guys spray the gate and then the stain gets on the ground. And where's the first place that the customer walks? That's right through the gate. And then the 7th thing is email it to jobs@stainandsealexperts.com. So I've got proof with the customer name in the title, so that I've got proof that all of those things were done. And it makes life easier. And that's better than a 400-page checkoff list of, did you do this, this, and this? Because that's on our job sites, we're at 95%. It's the 5% where we end up getting callbacks. It's not because, so those things, if you can just get your crews to do those few things, those trouble areas, and prove that they did it, hold them accountable. I think it's easier for them because they know all I got to do is this, and it's better for you because you know your guys are going to take the time to do it. And your customer gets a better finished product. So those 7 steps, I'll share them with anybody, and it's simple. It's on our work order, easy to do.
Now, so are they? Do you have a software that you use for collecting those pictures?
Joe, you're probably talking about company cam or something.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Cell phones, they're using their cell phones to do it. The problem, I would, we've considered laptops or tablets, iPads. But the problem is our guys, they get stain on their hands, and they've just said, we just really don't want to keep up with another electronic. Everybody's got a smartphone. So all our crew leaders are just taking pictures right there on their phone.
Well, so do we. So company cams on cell phones.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep. So that way. So for fencing, it really is nice because Sarah can take pictures ahead of time of the layout of everything, and then the guys know. The guys go through the pictures when they get there. So the nice thing is, so she creates the project. So Everest fence project, and then when they pull up, it geolocates them. So it says, "Oh, okay. Here's a project near you. Are you at Everest Fence Project?" They're like, "Yep, that's it." Click it. And so they can see what pictures are already there, such as work order, layout, any job notes.
I didn't realize that was for cell phone.
Yeah. But I mean, it also works on tablets, desktop, and everything. The reason I like it is, one, it sorts all the pictures by job name, but I can click on 5 jobs and download all the pictures at once, like for marketing. And advertising is what I don't want to have to go into all these different ones, open them up, download each. You know what I mean?
I like that. We should probably switch to that. I like it.
It'd be worth looking at, and I'm not affiliate. I don't get paid, but you ought to, it's a software that works really well. The one thing I love about it is it makes before and after pictures really easy, because when you say, "Hey, I want to do a before and after picture, here's my before," it will superimpose a ghost image of the before picture on your screen, so that when you've got your phone, all you're doing is lining up the after to make sure it matches the ghost image of the before, so that they look, they might not be exact, but they are very close.
Yeah. So for our 7 checkoff, the fence sign picture usually is the same place as the before and after. So you take a picture, and then the fence sign doubles as the before and after, and that would help for that. So if we can implement software without driving them crazy, then that would be what we do.
Yeah. So it's an app. You click on an app. I mean, a little bit of training goes into this, right? So it's not as easy as just opening up your phone app. You actually have to click the project folder and all that. But when we were talking about maintenance, then it's really nice because in one folder, you've got all the pictures from the last 12 years of maintenance coats, cleaning, whatever you want to put in there. I don't know. You might check it out.
We've talked about it. I remember hearing this. So
yeah, I got it from someone else. I don't even remember who I got it from.
Sean King uses it. I think that's who I originally.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Now Sean takes it to a whole nother level, which is purely Sean.
He wouldn't do that, would he?
Yeah, right. Completely out of character. No, so they inventory all their trucks with this. So they have a project folder for each truck, and they document each tool with serial number. He does it so right, for sure. Billy says the Nashville training was a blast. Billy,
yes, it was. Yeah,
I agree.
It was a good time.
I had a great time.
Wait till next year. So, we got the Power Washing Institute coming on board next year, and then Mr. Fence Academy is going to be going on with us at the same time.
Yep.
It's going to be the biggest event that there ever was. It's going to be huge.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It's lots of learning, but there's also lots of networking also, which is probably my 2 favorite things. I like to learn and become more efficient and effective, but also I like to network with others. Walt and Kenny and yourself. And I mean, we all sit down and have dinner, and it's like my head just feels like it's 10 times bigger when I leave, because I've been cramming all this information in there.
Yeah. And so the cool thing about teaming up with Mr. Fence and teaming up with Pressure Washing Institute and things like that is we clean fences, but we're fence and stain guys. So you get the power wash professionals in there. They go, oh, well, you might try this, and this tool or technique.
Right.
You get over here with the fence builders, and they go, oh, the stain guys need a space between the house so they can get masking in, or they need this, or they need that, and everybody comes together, and we figure out how to make the perfect circle.
Yep.
And it's neat. It's really cool to get all those minds together.
Well, one thing I always say on here is a rising tide raises all the ships.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the more industries we can get under one roof so that we all learn from each other, I think we're all better for it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Roger says, Caleb and Joe, thank you both for your time and knowledge. I greatly appreciate the amount of resources you both offer as I begin building my ideas into a business. Thank you so much. Roger, appreciate it. Guys like Roger are exactly why I do this, and they're why I see you in these groups doing these, Caleb.
Well, Roger and anybody else listening, if you're thinking about starting a business, it's daunting to sit and think about some of the things, and it's probably more daunting than you can even imagine if you've not started once you get to certain levels in business. But the thing is, you don't have to know how you're going to do it. You just have to know that you're going to do it, and just get out there and do it. Yeah,
just get started.
I would say 90% of all the stuff that I've done in business, I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no resources as far as people to call on, had nothing, but just got in there and did it and found ways to make it happen. And it just happens. And I think that's the American spirit.
Well, and here's the thing too, Roger, that's important to note. Like, it's always that way, right? I'm still that way. Here's a task. It seems huge. How do we break it into bite-sized pieces? How do we make, one huge task into 100 small tasks? And then once you click off the 99th item, then the 100th item, you're done, right? Whether we're talking about starting a business, which is a massive task, as Caleb had said, or just, throughout your business. I think it's important to remember that it can seem huge and daunting, but if you break it into 100 bite-sized pieces, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, the main thing is to execute.
Right.
Do it.
Right. Yeah, done is better than perfect.
Yeah, if you want to start a business, go get a business license tomorrow. It's $20. Go do that. Go and then figure out your power base. I call my power base all the people I know. A lot of people are a lot of families and people that people know are like Joe, you start a lawn care business and you're $75 to mow the grass. Well, there's another guy that's $65. How are you going to charge me that? I'm your third cousin. It's like, hey, support these people. Somebody's starting a business, support them, and don't be afraid to reach out to your power base, the people that you know that can help you. So that's the best thing you could do. I didn't do that, and but when I do something new now, I'm gonna definitely, that's what I do now. I call the people I know, and I'm shameless about it now. How can you help me with this? How will this help you?
Well, it's building a board of advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Whether they know they're on this board or not, it's a lawyer, it's a banker, it's these guys. Because here's the thing is, I believe there are more guys out there like Caleb and I and gals willing to give and help. There's more of those type of people than there are not.
Yes, right? There is. Yes.
I think if someone is humble and says, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, can you help me? I firmly believe there are people out there that would love nothing more, Roger, than to help you get to the next level, help you accomplish this task and see you do good. I really believe that.
Yeah, because people that have been there and done it, guys that are older than us, they see things. And prime example, I was flipping through Facebook yesterday while I was waiting on my wife to come get in the car from doing something. And I saw this young kid. He's probably 23 or 24, and he's a contractor, a new contractor, and he's making money because he shows up. And I saw him riding in his car doing like this, and he had dollar signs everywhere, and it said something about business is good or whatever. And he's driving a brand new truck, and I thought, man, that's a very dangerous place to be in. And I didn't want to call him a knucklehead, but I wanted to say, hey, you need to be thinking about this, and this because and here's why. And so it's very good to not get in a box by yourself, but to have have people there with you to help you manage that responsibility that you're getting very carefully.
Yeah, like I said, build your board of advisors, your professional. I mean, you can call it anything you want, but the guys that do well surround themselves with professionals that can help them through tight spots that they find themselves in. Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, banker, a lawyer, and an accountant are probably your quick three, your top three you want to get figured out pretty quick. Your banker is going to let you know what information you're going to need to provide them in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And too many times in finance, people go to a banker when they need money, which is not the right order to do that in. Right. So when we bought a house, we went to the bank first and said, we need to get pre-approved. What can we do? What do you need? We've got all the documentation so that when we went and looked at a house, we could pull the trigger and get finance for that house and right when we needed to. But people don't do that with business for some reason. Reach out to a banker before you need money, before you need financing to say, what do you need?
Well, and there's some people that they don't know bankers and lawyers and things like that, and you need to find those. But also, if you know somebody who's good at marketing and they work for another company, if somebody that's good he's a tile company but he's successful, or maybe you know somebody who has a pest control company that's really good about getting people signed on contracts and long-term deals, whatever. Use again your power base. The people use them. And here, Joe, you may or may not agree, but don't be afraid to listen to their advice and completely go against it either.
Sure.
There's been times people have said that do not do that. That is destined to fail. Don't make stains and sealers. You'll never get into the market. It's too big. It's too hard. It's too complicated. You're going to have EPA on you. You're going to have people are going to call the police on you. Whatever. Thank you for your advice.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's absolutely the case. I usually ask why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is this? Because the advice they're giving you pertains to them and their experience, which is important, but it's also important to know if their experience lines up with your goals, right? Because they might be saying that from just a completely different perspective and asking why. Well, why wouldn't you do that? What happened? How can I avoid the pitfalls that you're talking about? But you're right, Caleb. It's absolutely okay to take that advice into consideration when you're making your decisions, but to tailor your how you enact that advice to your specific scenario.
I have found for me personally the advice on operations, the advice on just past experiences of people has worked very well for me. The advice that I've gotten on maybe I wanted to implement a new product line, I've wanted to do something new that was a risk that I was thinking about taking. Most people are afraid of risk, and I'm not. And so usually the advice on risk I would go against, but the advice on implementation or operations or actions, things I had to do in my business, that advice has been invaluable.
Yeah.
I listen to it every time.
And that's the thing. So in my experience, bankers are very risk adverse, right? Yeah. They do not like risk at all. Mm-hmm. So also understand who you need to ask for what advice, right?
Talk to a guy who's taken a risk before.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm in a men's community group, right, called Sertoma. So we help out our community, and there's finance guys and banker guys in there that I know if I ask advice, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I would not do that. No. But it's like, okay, I understand that perspective.
Yeah, but if a banker was known as a risky guy, people would be like, I don't know about this bank. You want your banker to be solid as a rock, right?
You would not be a banker for very long.
Yeah. No, I could never be a banker.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is it's different personalities, right? It's different personalities have strengths and weaknesses, right? So it's the whole DISC profile. Mm-hmm. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How do you understand? How do you process information? It's the whole thing. But Roger, sorry, to bring this all back around to Caleb's point, form a board of advisors around you, whether they know they're on that board or not, of professionals that you can ask questions to, that are tailored to what you're trying to accomplish. All right, Thomas, welcome from Atlanta, Georgia. That's the last place Caleb and I saw each other in person.
Yep. It was
the great city of Atlanta, actually just outside Atlanta, but
that was a good steak, Joe.
Very good steak.
You'd get your airplane, and I'd get mine. We could just meet down there this evening and have us a steak. And fly back.
It would probably be worth it.
Yeah, to be honest, book the $100 cheeseburger would be the $500 steak, wouldn't it?
It would be too.
Fly to get in a plane to go get a steak.
Ron Musgraves is here. Speak of the devil. Speak of power washers coming together in Nashville. Ron put together the Young Gun event that Caleb and I were at there in Atlanta.
Ron, I would say, is the original gangster when it comes to wanting to help young people of all ages, but particularly bring people up into the trades and doing God's work like you talked about.
Yeah.
Ron tells it like it is. If somebody's doing something dumb, he will say, stop doing that dumb thing. And if they're doing something smart, he'll encourage them. And I just love Ron's spirit. A lot of people don't know how to take that spirit, but I like it. I really like the honesty and the guy who's not afraid to reach out and help people.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, Ron has a servant's heart. You know what I mean? Ron is there to help young guys get their feet under them and succeed. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I can pinpoint what people don't like about Ron. Some people, I'm not going to say what people don't like, but Ron, if you're listening, his BS meter is 0. Tell me the truth. Let's only speak in truths. If people are coming out with some crazy gimmicky things, he's like, that's BS. We're not going to do it.
Sure.
And that's true, man. We young guys need more of that in our life because we're in a world of gimmicks and craziness in business. You know, how many calls do you get a day for this new software that's going to make your whole business turn around? And let's get back to the basics and do what works.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Ron had the Young Guns training event in Atlanta that Caleb and I spoke at, and just watching how Ron operates that event, that group, is something to see. Because he wants the best for these guys and guys that he's never met. Some of these guys he's never met before in his life.
Yeah,
they show up, and Ron will absolutely give them the world as far as education, as far as advice.
And usually it's guys that probably aren't in a place in life where they can go buy advice.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what's making the biggest impact. And then he brings in people who were at the same place at one time, and then they talk about their story and how it changed, and it's really motivating. It's a fantastic thing he's doing.
Yep, I agree. We need more people like Ron. We need more Rons in this world. That's for sure.
I wish I was Ron's neighbor.
Right. I would, or just live in the same city as Ron. Like, can you imagine where you'd be in life if you could take Ron to dinner like once a month? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I am so serious about this. Like, if I could take Ron to dinner once a month, be like, all right, so here's what's going on, and just listen to Ron's advice. I think, it would be great. So Roger says, you're correct, Joe. You and Mark Olson are examples of that community you speak of. Yeah, so it's probably talking about guys that will absolutely give you the keys to the kingdom. There's guys like this everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you see it here, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, in the Facebook groups, you see guys like this everywhere. And there's guys like this in your community. You just don't know them yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You just haven't met them yet.
Yeah.
So a great way to find these guys and gals, I say guys interchangeably, these folks, is if I need to know somebody, I'll put it out on Facebook. My personal Facebook, I'm like, who do I know, or who do you know that I should know that I can ask this question to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's a finance question, who do I know that can give me financial advice, or who do you know that you would trust to give you financial advice that I should know? Can you introduce me, or legal advice, or whatever the scenario? You know, I would, starting out. You know, you need the big three: the accountant, the lawyer, and the finance. That's kind of my trinity, I guess.
Yeah.
Every situation can be different, but I would probably just put that in Facebook. Guys, I am super excited to announce to the world, because also you're going to kind of force yourself into this. Announce to the world that I'm going for it. I'm throwing off the stops. I'm canceling everything. I'm going for gold here. I need a dream team. I need a lawyer. I need a finance guy. I need an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you know that I should know? Go from there. What I would do.
Exactly.
Ron, thank you. This is the problem with guys like Ron. They don't accept compliments. And we're gonna try to get you to accept this one. But no, more guys like Ron for sure. Well, guys, we're past 11:30, and I really do got to get out of here.
You got to go, Joe.
I do. I gotta go try to help some more folks with some. This one's a backyard expert. So it's me and some landscapers and some hardscape folks and some outdoor furniture folks. Anyway, I'm excited for that.
It just makes sense for all of y'all to get together and know who should come first, right? In the backyard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not me.
Yeah.
Not me. I want all of you to have all of your stuff done before I come in there and fence it all in. But anyway, Caleb, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Been a pleasure,
guys,
Joe.
I'm serious. If you guys have thought about staying, if you want to talk to me about it, I'd love to talk to you about it. If you'd like to go directly to the source, check out Stay and Seal Experts directly. Information, there's a link below in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description below. Caleb is entirely giving with his time as far as giving advice, as far as making himself available. Every time I ask Caleb to come on, the answer is yes. And when can I do it? So, Caleb, I appreciate that a lot.
Thanks, Joe, for having us. I appreciate it. And best of luck to everybody listening.
Absolutely. Guys, if you have any questions, you can reach me. You can send me an email, joe@thefenceexpert.show. .show is important. I don't know who has .com. Somebody's got .com, and they are not returning emails. So, anyway. Caleb, how does somebody get a hold of you if they've got some questions for the Stain and Seal Expert?
Joe, I got to say, in a couple more months, I'm going to let your growth build up, and then I'll respond to that email you've been sending me. But
that's fair.
You know, it's you can call our office 615-785-1861. We got kind of a Monday through Friday tech line. So if you need any technical support on any stain in the world, we can help you with it. Any cleaning, restoration. Also, our Facebook group is Staining University. Get in there. You can learn a lot from the experts like Joe and Kenny and Walt. And go to realgoodstain.com if you want to learn more about what we do.
There you go. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Caleb, like I said, I appreciate you being so giving with your time. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors.
Good neighbors. See ya.
See you guys later.